You know, it's not the first time I've said this on this channel. It's not the last. But I have beef with James Gunn. We have beef. He doesn't know it, but we do. Hi y'all, SnarkyJay cosplay here. We spend a lot of time on this channel talking about James Gunn and the various failures of DC/Warner Brothers Studios, but today we're gonna get into something else. We're gonna talk about James Gunn's Facebook. James Gunn made several different comments about not only Michael Keaton's Batman, but also Christian Bale's Batman on his Facebook some time ago. And by some time ago, I mean literally like 9 years ago. And I'm sure some of you are sitting there going, Jay, are we really gonna rehash some shit that this guy posted almost 10 years ago, if not more? And the answer, my friends, is yes. I am a Cuban Puerto Rican woman, which means that one of my favorite pastimes since birth is bringing up now irrelevant things that men did in the past and punishing them for it way too far in the future. James Gunn is not exempt to this, so let's get started. The context of some of these comments are a little bit fuzzy. We're gonna get into that in just a minute, but basically James Gunn thinks that every Batman ever has been a piece of shit. Genuinely. I'm pretty sure that most of these comments were made sometime relatively shortly after the release of Christopher Nolan's The Dark Knight. That's really important. The first comment we're gonna get into is this one. It reads, Keaton did have a ridiculous voice. That said, I'd rather put up with a ridiculous voice than with horrible action sequences and acting barely worthy of the Batman TV show. Now obviously the first line here is probably addressing comparisons between Christian Bale's Batman and Michael Keaton's Batman. It seems like the original commenter was probably defending Michael Keaton and dogging Christian Bale for that ridiculous Batman voice. While Michael Keaton did do a silly Batman voice and Christian Bale was basically unintelligible, I think that we can kind of excuse Michael Keaton a little bit on account of the fact that it was a Tim Burton film, it was the 80s, it was a lot more campy. I can't entirely disagree with James Gunn thinking that Keaton had a ridiculous Batman voice as well. What I do have a problem with is him claiming that the ridiculous voice done by Keaton was also accompanied by horrible action sequences and acting that was barely worthy of the Batman TV show. Anybody who's watched any episode of the original Batman TV show with Adam West knows that that shit was goofy and campy as hell. For as campy as the 1989 Batman movie was, and as campy as its 1992 sequel Batman Returns could be, neither of them could compare to how absolutely f***ing goofy Adam West's original Batman TV show was. I'm not saying that's a bad thing, I think they were great, but the fact of the matter is that Batman in like the 60s is not the same as Batman in the 80s, is not the same as Batman in the 2000s or in 2020. The action sequences in both of Michael Keaton's Batman films were a little goofy at times, but they weren't absolutely ridiculous, and the acting was definitely not worse than the Batman TV show. Michael Keaton is a fantastic actor, and if you tell me that Michelle Pfeiffer did a bad job as Catwoman, we're gonna have to talk. The next comment we're talking about reads, I have no idea how you can think that the Burton Batman has more similarities with Moore or Miller's Batman and Joker than Nolan's does. And listen, I have problems with both of Nolan's films. I don't think either one is classic, and I don't even really think Batman Begins is good, but they're far superior to the first Batman. He then goes on to continue roasting Michael Keaton's Batman by saying it does not compare to Batman that are as famous as, let's say, the ones written by Frank Miller. Of course, Frank Miller not only gave us Year One, but he also gave us The Dark Knight Returns. He also wrote All-Star Batman and Robin, which is one of the worst Batman stories. Like, it's not even an argument. It is unarguably the worst piece of Batman content that has ever been written. So I don't really like to put Frank Miller on that big of a pedestal because sometimes he's great and sometimes he's insane. Now, regardless of who's the best Batman, I'm not even getting into that debate. I've already made videos about that and you guys literally get mad at me every time. But the fact of the matter is that James Gunn clearly believes that Christian Bale was a superior Batman to Michael Keaton, and in some ways, I could agree that he was. However, my biggest problem is that he says that not only was Batman Begins not a good movie, but that neither of Christopher Nolan's Batman films were ever going to be a classic. Of course, this is obviously before the release of The Dark Knight Rises, which I can very much agree is not a great movie at all. But to say that out of Batman Begins and The Dark Knight, that neither of those was classic, to me just screams James Gunn thinks he knows more about comic books than everybody and wants to be Mr. Edgelord and I know everything. This is the same guy that thought saying Superman had a poop fetish and Peacemaker was a good f***ing joke. The last comment he made on his Facebook that I want to address is the following. The Tim Burton Batman is poorly written, the soundtrack is the worst work of everyone involved, and it is absolutely one of the most boring films ever. Not only that, but the reveal of the Joker as the killer of Bruce Wayne's parents spits in the face of Batman's origin, and is a nullification of the bottomless thirst for vengeance that necessarily drives Batman. It pretends not to be campy, but is completely so, and on top of everything, the dark creature of the night can't even move his neck. Give me a break. It is a ridiculous, awful film. Burton's Planet of the Apes is a genius in comparison. Let's go ahead and take this line by line. He's completely full of shit when he says that Tim Burton's Batman films are poorly written, because they're actually written in a very fun Tim Burton way that combines both elements of Tim Burton's style and also of Batman. They're campy and ridiculous. I'm pretty sure they are aware that they're campy and ridiculous. I don't think at any point Tim Burton's Batman films try to be anything more than what they are. And for that reason, we can enjoy them. I can agree with him that I think Jack Nicholson's Joker was a little bit underwhelming, and yes, I think it is a mistake to write a movie where the Joker is the guy that kills Bruce Wayne's parents. I think the story of Thomas and Martha Wayne being in the wrong place at the wrong time and just falling victim to a city that is inherently broken, that's what makes the story of Batman powerful. So I can't disagree entirely with Gunn here. I think he makes a great point. But neither of Tim Burton's Batman films are ridiculous, awful movies. That's why Michael Keaton is known to be one of the favorite Batmans that anybody has ever had. And beyond that, to dog the movie for not having him be able to move his neck. Newsflash, genius, the only f***ing Batman that's ever been able to move his neck was Christian Bale in The Dark Knight because they changed the cowl. That's literally the nature of it. If you have a guy with a thing on his head that comes down to his neck, this is literally me right here. This is me as Pattinson's Batman. I can't move my neck in that shit either. Nobody can move their neck. There's no real way to make a genuine looking Batman cowl that you can still move your neck in. So f off, James Gunn. That's a cheap shot. Now, interestingly enough, these comments just became relevant again like last week, and then miraculously, James Gunn's Facebook page disappears, deactivated, gone. And so, of course, various news sites started to assume that it was because he deleted them because he didn't want to keep getting roasted for his shitty opinions on Batman. After all, Batman is and will always be the king of DC Comics, despite how absolutely awful his current arc is and that whole Gotham War thing. That could be a whole video on its own. I'm not even gonna talk about that. But regardless, you don't f with Batman, and you most definitely don't make several posts just shitting on Michael Keaton's Batman and then go insert him as a cameo in your poorly performing films. Flash. According to the chronically online James Gunn, the whole reason for his Facebook being deactivated was actually because Facebook thinks that somebody was trying to hack him. Either way, I honestly call bullshit on that. It's not the first time that James Gunn has gotten in hot water over shit he said. After all, that's why he got fired from Marvel once in the first place, right? If you ask me, James Gunn is chronically online but thinks he's smarter than everybody, and that's why he believes that he's going to save the DCEU. I have zero faith in somebody who talks about Batman and these beloved characters like this. However, I have all the faith in the world in the resilience of Batman as a character and the love that a lot of people have for DC Comics and not exactly for DC Studios. That's all from me. I've been SnarkyJay. Thank you so much for watching. Please don't forget to like and subscribe. For more SnarkyJay, be sure to follow me on Instagram, and to support my content, feel free to check out my Patreon. I will put links to both of those in the description below, and let me know your thoughts on James Gunn's Batman comments in the comments below.